means it opens into two halves. Those are the leaves. And double-decker, it's got two levels of traffic stacked on top of each other. It was the first double-decker double-leaf drawbridge in the world. It was built in 1920. It's still the original bridge from 1920. It's 104 years old, and it was designed by lead engineer William Mulcahy. Now, folks, it's a little embarrassing in this job if I forget the name of the building or if I call one the wrong name. I don't have that problem with the first skyscraper on the tour. Right in front of us is a very tall glass tower. The very tall glass tower ahead of the boat is the Trump International Hotel and Tower. It's the second tallest building in the city, finished in 2009, designed by Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill architects with lead architect, Chicago-born and raised Mr. Adrian Smith. Now here's what I want you to notice about the Trump Tower quickly. The lowest roof of it is the same height as that building with the clock tower right behind us, and the second highest roof of the tower, the second highest roof, is the same height as the dark steel rectangular building, which will come into view in just a moment behind the Trump Tower. Those different roof levels were intentionally designed by lead architect, Chicago-born and raised Mr. Adrian Smith, to provide continuity with the building's neighbors and the skyline. At 1,388 feet, 423 meters tall with 98 stories, it's the second tallest building in the city by Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill, with Adrian Smith, finished in 2009. Now on the right side of the boat, that dark steel rectangular building, the dark steel tower on the right, is AMA Plaza. That's the national headquarters of the American Medical Association. It's from 1973 by Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. It's part office, part hotel, and it is international style. International style is defined with dark steel, minimal ornamentation, rectangular pattern. You see, this was a revolutionary style for the 1940s when this particular architect started his career, Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. You see, Mies van der Rohe's philosophy was that architects should focus almost exclusively on making the insides of buildings useful instead of focusing on making the outsides ornate. Again, we call that international style. You could also call it black box modern style. That building's by Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. Now, Mies van der Rohe was a professor right here in Chicago. Not all of his students ended up liking rectangles like he did. On the right side of the boat, these two circular towers on the right are called Marina City. They're from 1968 by Bertrand Goldberg, one of Mies van der Rohe's students. Now Goldberg said he was inspired by nature. He said there are no right angles or square shapes in nature. He wanted to build round, natural-looking shapes for people to live in. Also, get a good look at that parking ramp above us, those winding, spiral, open-air parking structures on Marina City. So here's the thing. When Marina City went up in the 1960s, not very many people lived in the city center of Chicago. So in order to entice residents to make the move downtown, Goldberg filled Marina City with amenities. It had its own grocery store, movie theater, bowling alley, skating rink, marina on the river, and those parking ramps, which you can still see behind us. And folks, having seen those parking ramps, you might have gotten nervous imagining cars falling off and into the river, but there's no need to worry. That's only happened twice. That's true. But I should probably tell you the whole truth, which is that it never happened on accident or due to foul play. Both times were filmed stunts. Once for Steve McQueen moving a hunter, and the other was for an auto insurance commercial. Now, after this bridge on the right, this red brick building is the Reed Murdoch Center. It's 110 years old, and it is a window to the river's more industrial past. You see, this brick building on the right was originally a canned goods warehouse back when the river was our port. Ships would come in from the lake and dock at warehouses like this to load and unload goods. Now, it's a mixed office building today with a couple restaurants, but it's a window to the river's past, and we do still have a commercial port on Lake Michigan in Chicago. But the port of Chicago's on the south side today, not downtown on the river, like when the Reed Murdoch Center was built. The Great Lakes are still active commercial shipping lanes. Now, folks, we're going to look directly ahead of the boat. Because directly in front of the boat, way up high, is that tall rectangular glass tower that says Salesforce on it. That's actually the Salesforce Tower. Now, the Salesforce Tower was just finished last year, designed by Kelly Clark Kelly Architects It's a new office building, and the land that it stands on was a parking lot 20 years ago. Developing something like a parking lot into skyscrapers, or a couple decades ago in the 60s, 70s, 80s, a lot of old rail yards got developed into skyscrapers. Developing those big flat pieces of real estate is one of the ways we can build new buildings while preserving the older buildings that were already standing. We're going to wait till after this next bridge next. Folks, I need you to pay attention here. If you look closely, right where I tell you, you might be able to notice that up and to the right, there's actually a stone building there. Thank you for the pity laugh. You're right. It's easy to spot. On the right side of the boat, that's the Merchandise Mart. Folks, the Merch Mart was actually the biggest building in the world in 1930 with 400,000 square meters or 4.2 million square feet of space. It's Art Deco style with vertical lines, geometric ornamentation, and stair-stepping setbacks up toward the top, all that together. That's Art Deco style. Now, folks, the Merchandise Mart was the biggest building in the world. That's by floor space. It was paid for by Marshall Field's department stores to consolidate their many warehouses into one giant warehouse downtown on the river. It's a mixed office building today. It was designed by Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White. And finally, folks, it's a mixed office building today. And up until 2008, the U.S. Postal Service gave the Merch Mart its own unique zip code or postal code. That was 60654. All right, after this bridge, we have entered the fork of the river. This is where the three branches of the Chicago River meet. The main branch is behind us, the south branch is to the left, and the north branch is to the right. The fork in the river here is called Wolf Point. No one's quite sure where the name Wolf Point came from, but the name Wolf Point is older than the city of Chicago. I've always suspected that someone probably saw a wolf at some point. Now we're going to be turning from heading west to turning north, and we're going to bounce to the left side of the boat in just a moment. I'm not going to talk about that one with the narrow base yet. We'll get to that building later. But in just a sec, we're going to look on the left side of the boat. Okay, so in front of us to the left, is this glass tower behind the red spiral sculpture. Glass tower behind a red spiral sculpture on the left, that's River Point. It's by Picard and Chilton from 2017, and it's LEED Platinum certified. That's Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design on the left side with the red spiral sculpture. Two key factors in earning it that Environmental Architecture Award are that it was constructed using recycled materials for the most part, and it uses river water to supplement its air conditioning. It brings water in, circulates it as coolant in the AC, and releases it back to the river cleaner than it found it. Now, in front of us to the left is this red brick building. The red brick building on the left is Fulton House. Fulton House is 126 years old, and it is the oldest building on the tour, designed by Frank Abbott in 1898 as a cold storage warehouse. Folks, it's been remodeled into residences by architect Harry Weiss. Harry Weiss is an architect who likes boats. He likes to put nautical theming on his buildings. He added the starfish onto the walls and the porthole windows on the top when he remodeled it. So another warehouse originally, but it's a residential building with nautical theming added by architect Harry Weiss. Now folks, ahead of us and to the left is a Harry Weiss original, a row of 4 townhouses with sloping roofs. These are called the Chicago River Cottages. They're from 1988 by Harry Weiss. Now they have porthole windows and they have metallic spiral stair towers like you find on boats. And the sloping roofs are nautical as well. We'll point out why after this next bridge. So after this bridge, if you look to the left and behind us above the bridge, The two
See, that's where
sloping
we park
roofs of the
next
river
time we'll pick you up.
cottages are meant to resemble the sails of sailboats as well. So one last piece of nautical theming by architect Barry Weiss. Those are from 1988. Now, on the right side of the boat, this long building on the right side of the boat is the East Bank Club. The East Bank Club is a high-end, exclusive fitness facility. That means expensive gym. Being a high-end gym in Chicago, Barack and Michelle Obama, Rahm Emanuel, Michael Jordan, and Oprah Winfrey have all had memberships at the EBC. Now, folks, the East Bank Club here was built in the 1970s without these windows. That's because in the 70s, people weren't generally very interested in looking at the Chicago River. It was dirtier and smellier with weirder things than us floating around in it. But after the Federal Clean Water Act of 1972, we worked hard to clean up our waterways, and these windows were added to let people enjoy the view. Now these days, look on the left. People even like to live along the river nowadays. On the left side of the boat is Kinsey Park. It's from it's from 2002. There we go. Kinsey Park is from 2002 by Haynes and Papa George. It's a community